Alrighty, welcome back to another episode of A Warrior Spirit, where we let the inner warrior shine in their light. Today, I have the pleasure of a friend of mine, Melissa DeMatteo. Melissa and I have been friends for a very long time. She is a talent advisor for a recruiting firm, and she's also a mother, wife, and all around great individual. She was actually my boss at a former life I used to have, and probably one of the best bosses I ever had, and someone that I truly respect, not only as her work ethic, but her soul. And Melissa, I'm just thankful and appreciative for you joining me today. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm very glad to be here. Nice introduction too. We do go way back.
We go a long way back. It's hard to believe that decade ago.
And I know. Good times though. So
Totally
good
different life.
experience. Yeah.
One of the reasons that I wanted you to come on is like I said in the introduction, you have this amazing soul and work ethic and love for others. You want others to succeed as much as you want yourself to succeed, which really did set you apart as a boss and um, but as a person. Um, was that servant heart and mentality something you grew up with, or was it something you learned along the way? What was your starting point?
I think it's just ingrained in me. I think I was born with it. You know, my upbringing, my parents, my grandparents, my great grandparents, the faith, um, just always trying to see the good in situations and again helping others, and it even goes back to like when I was going to church when I was younger and helping out for heifer luncheon, or my first job working in an old age home and like serving the elders, and it was always just wanting to be a caretaker.
So where did you grow up?
I grew up in, actually, I live right around the corner from where I grew up right now, originally Green Lane, Pennsylvania, and I've stayed in the area my whole life, so didn't really travel too far.
That's actually kind of a unicorn thing to do. Many of us, grow up and then we can't wait to get out of our hometown, and sometimes we circle back and but to actually stay and still be there, that's pretty rare and kind of impressive in and of itself. Um, in your household, was there a lot? You talk about your lineage of your parents, your grandparents, that kind of service mentality. Was there a Were you a big family or a small family?
Excuse me. Well, I grew up with I have two brothers, so it was a family of five. I was the middle, so between two brothers growing up. So we have, an extended family. We're growing up. Before my grandmother had passed, we were together every single Sunday night. Going to my grandparents' house and having dinner, running around with my cousins, catching lightning bugs and playing tag and all that. So we always were a very close knit family.
So, which I love because I look at my my own family, and on my uncle's side, they had Sunday dinners where we were all there. My grandma was there, and yeah, and they still do that today. And then I look at the rest of my dad's siblings on our side, and we're just scattered across the U.S. and barely even say hi to each other. So that tight knit family is something I always admire when I see it because it's special, and it's unique. Have you ingrained that into your own family with your children? That closeness?
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Well, I have four children, and I'd always wanted a big family. So it's my favorite number, and like 44 is like also another favorite of mine. And I had, just always wanted to have a large family, and just I'm like one of the things I always thought about, like, and it's kind of weird, but if for some reason like the house caught on fire, somebody always had to have a hand to hold, right? Somebody needed a partner. So I wanted to make sure that I had an even number. So everybody had somebody that they could partner with. And I think that that's true with my kids. They are very close. You know, they're always there for each other. I mean, my son every night goes into his sister's rooms and he's like, just lays on top of her. And he's like, get off of me. So it's like you hear all the fighting and the whatnot, but it's like just, it's not like fighting, you know, they're just kind of picking on each other, and, you know, they just try and have fun with one another all the time.
Nice. So definitely there's a difference between the bickering and the lighthearted teasing for sure. Once you
Yeah.
got old enough to go to college, did you stay in the area for college too, or did you actually venture away and come back?
I didn't go too far away. My sister-in-law was actually going to an all-girls college in Noontown, Cedar Crest College. I didn't graduate from there, but I did. I went there kind of because she was there, and my parents kind of felt like it was a comfortable place for me to go. Because my parents, my mom was definitely, I would say, more of a helicopter parent. Like, she was always like around and on top of us, and, you know, just wouldn't always let us go and do things on our own. So it was fine with me. I mean, it was a good college. I met a lot of great people, but then I did transfer to Kutztown University, which was also not that far away either. So, and actually I went there because when my younger brother started to go to college, he was going to Kutztown, and then the cost of it was like, well, it makes sense for you both to go to the same school, State College. We're spending a lot of money over here at Cedar Crest College. You know, it's a private all-girls school, like. So, and that's where I definitely got more exposed to a lot more diversity than I was ever accustomed to.
And how did that play out for you? Because when you're in I'm going to presume small town USA growing up, um, you're in a tight little bubble, and college sometimes is our first exposure outside that bubble, where we're like, oh my gosh, like there's more than I ever realized. What was that? Was now some people can take that in two different directions. Some people can embrace it with their service heart and join in that way, and some people can embrace it with their rebellious heart and just start the free will life, right? Which version did you do, or was there a mix?
I would definitely say there was a bit of a mix in that. You know, I met my roommate. She was from, like, she was right outside of New York is where she was from. So she would spend a lot of time in Brooklyn. And so then, like, I went to Brooklyn with her, and I remember walking down the sidewalk with her, and I'm like, hi, hey, and it's like, they can't do that. And I was like, oh, I was just being friendly, you know.
Yeah.
A lot of friends in Kutztown. I made a lot of friends in Cedar Crest too, but in Kutztown it was more like I wanted to be friends with everybody, like, and that's where more of a diverse friendships came to play, you know. And I don't like want to talk about it in that way. I just mean that there was just a lot more a variety of people to get to know and learn about, and I made some really good long-term friendships from that.
So, what was the most rebellious thing you would say Melissa did in your short span between growing up in mid America to being wife and family woman?
Um, Gosh, I mean, I don't. I think it was the first time that I experimented with, you know, narcotics, and the first time that I ever skipped a class and stayed out late partying more than I had ever really done before. And, you know, I did not finish at Kutztown, right? So I do not have my degree, but I have 3 solid years of college experience, and it's almost like I did a flip-flop of everything. Like, I went to a private all-girls school, I went to a state university, and then I went to a community college, because I said to my parents, I was like, I want to get housing out off campus. And they were like, no, you're not going to do that. So they're like, you can come home, you can commute back and forth to Kutztown. But then that kind of took a toll on me driving back and forth. So I looked into just taking some classes at the community college. And then the last class that I was looking to, wasn't going to finish my degree, but I was about to take on public speaking. But the fear of it took over on me, and then I never took that class. And then I started to work. And so then I worked as a waitress, and then I worked at eye doctors' offices. And then I had learned about nannying. And I was like, I like kids a lot. You know, I worked in a daycare and so I was like, maybe I should get a nanny job. And I was living, I had gotten married. That's right. I got married. That happened.
Forgot about that.
My first marriage, right? And I had actually broken out of like my little bubble, and I was living in Phoenixville, which, back then my parents were like, oh my gosh, Phoenix still feels like it's so far away, but now it's like, it's really not that far. And so it was actually, there was the Patch newspaper, and I was just looking through it the one day, and there was an ad in the paper for a nanny position. So I called, and I got the call back, and I went to visit the family, and they had two little girls. I walked in the evening, the little baby Morgan, she was asleep on the floor in front of a fire. Madison was 2 years old, and I walked in and I greeted her, got down on one knee, and I said, hi, nice to meet you. And she came in and gave me a hug, and then the mom and we hit it off, and I hadn't met the father. He wasn't there, but it was only like 2 days later that I got a phone call, and they were like, we want to hire you, want to, bring you on board here. And honestly, that's where my life changed. That's where the direction for my career came into play. And I nannied for Diane and Kevin for 7 years. And Diane owned her own recruiting company. And that's where she pulled me aside one day and she said, hey, I think you'd be really great at this. I'd like to teach you how to do it. And so I had my first child in there, so it kind of worked out that, I brought my daughter with me to her home, and I hired my own nanny to take care of the girls and my daughter. And then I worked in her guest bedroom for about 2 years and learned the ropes from gatekeepers to manager profiling of personalities, cold calling, working with, really high compensation. You got your Capital Medical salespeople, and they're making hundreds of thousands of dollars, and driving nice cars and whatnot. So it was like, that was my first go of it, and it definitely struck something in me, and that's really where my career started.
Well, the nanny portion of it, I mean, you already said you had always wanted to be a mom. So that kind of re-solidified your desire to do that. And then learning how to care for young children, toddlers, infant toddlers, that also taught you how to deal with people that you were recruiting, because having done your job, I know there's a lot of babies in that industry.
Yeah.
And you have to kind of use some of the same skills to, get them to do what they want, especially those high powered clients like you were talking about. They tend to get their ego in the way of the next, process. And so being able to navigate all of those, I think, was good training in those 7 years of being a nanny.
Definitely.
So you said is this your second marriage? Did I hear that right?
Yes.
Okay. So how long did your first marriage last?
Just shy of 2 years.
Right after the baby was born?
Yes. Yeah, pretty much. She had just turned a year well, it was even before that. I mean, really, it was. I found out that there was some things going on when I was about 7, 8 months pregnant, and then after she was born, about maybe when she was like 6 months old, everything came to a head, and I recognized everything that was going on, and I said I won't deal with that. So packed his bags and out the door we went.
And that has to leave a little bit of what the heck am I going to do? Or were you, because of your family strength, strong enough to say, you know what, screw it, I can do this without
Oh yeah,
getting it?
definitely. You know that song Survivor that Beyonce sings? That was my theme song, like just about every single day in my house. And my dad, when we bought our home, my dad helped us buy it. So in essence, it was my house, and my parents were there pretty much the minute that everything went down. So they were in the parking lot waiting for him to leave, and came in and just helped me pick up the pieces, and at least be strong enough to keep moving forward from that day.
And how long between the end of that relationship to your current marriage? Because this one is much different in many ways.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
how much time in between?
Not that much time. Honestly, my husband today, we're very good friends all through junior high and high school. So we met when we were young. So he was my best guy friend growing up. We would talk on the phone late into the evening. Sometimes we wake up in the morning, still be there on the other end. But it just wasn't the right time for us, right? And he was at my first wedding, and he pretty much at that point was like, oh, really, really not going to happen. And honestly, I had a friend from 8th grade, Linda, who had mentioned that she was on Match.com, and she saw Josh's profile on there. And I went on Match.com, and we became a match like immediately. And so we reached out to each other, and it was like a Friday night. My daughter was just about 18 months old at the time. And he showed up at my door with a little teddy bear and never left.
That's awesome. Was he previously in a marriage, or was he still single and just waiting on you?
Yeah. Yeah, well, maybe, but yeah. No, married previously. No, it was definitely a little hard with that concept. It's still something that bothers me is, that happened. I wish, it could have been a little different, but I can't ever regret that because of my firstborn daughter. I mean, she's magnificent.
Yeah. Well, I've been married previously as well, and what I come to realize, because my ex-wife had 3 children, and the youngest was 2 when I met her, and she's still my daughter today, and so I always know that I was there for her, not for the relationship with her mother. And
Hmm.
sometimes we have to go through a process to get what we need, um, which is not always the easy route, but sometimes a necessity. And kudos to your husband for stepping in and being a father to a child that was not biologically his. Having done that, I know the toll that it can take, and the dedication that it does take. Um,
Yeah.
so kudos to your husband for sure. And how long have you been married now?
15 years.
15 years. So um, 3 with him.
Yes.
And
Yep.
how how soon did you start to expand your family? Like, you guys get together and then start to expand your family, or you wait a little bit as a tiny little?
Well, how did it all kind of work out? It's like, well, our son was a surprise. So it's everything kind of happened. And I feel like maybe it was all the signs of everything saying you guys are meant to be. And, so when we found out, I remember going to him, and he was like, he wasn't like shocked. He was just like, oh my gosh, I'm going to be a father. And then we decided we were going to get married, and we got married when I was about 5 or 6 months pregnant. And so we got married August 23rd, 2008. And then we had Gabe January 24th. So.
Well, eventually Gabe will be able to do the math too.
Yeah. And so, like, we just loved these babies, right? And it was like, Katie was just turning in 3. She would turn 3 that November. And then when we had Gabe, and then when Gabe was just about to turn 3, we had Maria. And then we had a little bit of a break. So it was like 6 years. And then we decided we're going to try for one more. And this one, I say, is the only one that we actually chose. But I did have miscarriages in between. So I had one before Katie, I had one before Maria, and then I had one before Valerie as well. So
you had 3 miscarriages. Did that make it hard for you to actually try to plan the pregnancies because you were worried about another miscarriage, or how did you deal with those?
So it's just the way I've always lived my life is that if something's meant to happen, it's going to happen, So I would say that my first miscarriage, because I had never had children, was the scariest, because I felt like, what if I could never have kids? But then after I had her, and then I had Gabe, and I know at the time when I had the miscarriage after that, I was in a stressful work environment, and I had traveled to Illinois or somewhere, and I had come back, and then the miscarriage happened. So I feel like maybe because of the setting and timing, my body was just like, and I'd always say, I'm like, your body, that baby isn't like, I don't know, my body just naturally does stuff, and I don't have any control over it whatsoever. It's just like, nope, you don't need that one. Here's the one you're meant to have, So it's definitely shocking and sad, because you have this picture in your mind of this little being that's been created. But it happens. Like the last one I had was probably it was definitely one where I was at home, because the first 2 had a D&E. For the last one, I actually expelled it at home, and my husband helped me. Like he had it in his hands, and it was just like shocking experience, And then, we were like, we definitely knew we wanted to keep trying at least for one more.
Well, I'm gonna go back and give you guys kudos again, because those type of traumatic experiences, although they occur in the woman's body, they happen in the family unit, and those can be devastating for both parties. And sometimes both parties can't survive that devastation. So, kudos to you and your husband for being able to work through that, not only once, but multiple times. And kudos to you for staying in your faith that, what is meant to be will be mine. And, those are attributes that not everyone has. And, I'm recognizing in you, I'm glad that you guys were able to go through all that and stay strong together. So kudos.
Thank you. Yeah, I was, I don't know, we seem to work better when we know that there's something we have to overcome, we seem to forge together, like even more so. Like one time we had flooding in our basement, and we were like, oh my gosh, we have to do this, we got to figure this out together. And we're both tackling it at the same time, trying to figure out like what we can do to fix whatever is wrong. And, it's was definitely a time. I feel it feels so crazy that it's already over. Like now because after we had Val, we were like, yeah, we're totally done. Like we just need to focus on the kids that we have now. We have so many, and it's just as rewarding to see them grow as it is to have them when they're little. I mean, I definitely miss it. I don't want to rush my kids by any means, but I definitely am looking forward to that time in the future. But you know, I don't know. I feel like, and I say this kind of going back to my mom, the way she was, like kind of over top of us a lot of the time. Like she never wanted to let us go. She just wanted to keep us like with her, like so much. And in my mind, I've always thought, well, these kids are only given to me for a short period of time, to be honest. Like they're loaning these children to me to help grow them and guide them and prepare them. And then they're going to go off like a bird. They're going to fly away. And I'm like, my oldest is 18 now. She's graduating high school this year. And, you know, I'm like, I'm ready for this, but I'm definitely like, oh, it's going to be really different when she's not here anymore, you know, but I'm also almost been preparing for it because I've had to share her whole life. Like I've always had to let her go to her dad's house or let her go on vacation with her father, and then she'd be gone and there'd be this gap time of Katie's not here. And so it's like we always have had that around us. But you know, I think she's really ready, and you know, I'll just say, well, I'm here for you when you need me, you know, call me sometime.
Yeah. Well, my dad was much like you, where he actually would say, my job is to make you a self-sufficient adult and to be able to leave my house. And you know, that's I think that's a better attribute for parents than the never want to let you go, put you in a bubble type of, you know, environment, to fortify them to be strong individuals on their own so that they can be, you know, givers instead of takers to the world around them, contributors. You know, I think that's again, it's a testament to who you are and one of the many reasons why I've always respected you. I gotta say, you know, I don't know your husband. I've never met your husband. I've only met you all this time, but he must be one pretty strong individual to handle a strong-willed individual like yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. He calls me Jekyll and Hyde because I kind of can switch gears pretty quickly, because I'm the nicest person in the world, but at the same time, when I don't like something, I don't like something, very truly. But I'm also like, I don't know, like when I don't like something, I still am like, well, you still have a right to feel the way you feel. You still have a right to think the way you think, and we're not going to see eye to eye all the time. And that's okay, but I definitely don't agree with this situation, you know? But yeah, he's definitely very strong. He's the oldest of his family. His parents went through a divorce when he was young. His dad was difficult. He doesn't have a relationship with his father. And, you know, he's always been self-sufficient, independent on his own. Like when we moved in together, pretty much everything that he brought in had his name written on it because he saved up, he bought it, it was his. He has two brothers. They would try to take things from him all the time. He's like, don't touch my stuff, you know? So like, I feel like it's good and sometimes bad to know somebody as thoroughly as we know each other, because we're like, you still don't know everything about me, even though you know a lot about me. And so we're in that point now where, gosh, we've really like almost want to put behind us all that youngster stuff, all the growing up stuff, and be like, all right, now we're parents, we're older. Like, I'll tell you, when I turned 40, I was like, oh my gosh, I am not 14 anymore. That's for sure.
Yeah, the hangovers get harder and the wake ups get more difficult as well.
Mm-hmm.
Put that stuff aside and do some adulting. Um,
Yeah.
so what is from where you came from to where you are? You were in a helicopter mom situation. You are more enlightened than your mother. You kind of embrace life in a different vein as far as your parental responsibilities. What are you attributing? Because a lot of what we bring into parenthood, we learn from our parents, and you were able to differentiate yourself from your own mother, even if it's in subtle ways. What would you attribute that determination and strength to?
God, the Lord. For yeah, I mean, I will, and oftentimes it's in the shower because it's just a quiet place, and the water to me always feels like a baptism, you know.
Mhm.
'Cause when I was baptized when I was 13, and I felt like I was renewed. Like I felt it. It was like an internal, like spiritual, like uplifting sensation. And going to the church that I went to, a church that my great grandparents went to. It was a church that my grandmother went to, and a lot of history with the membership of being there. And so when I pray, I'm always saying, thank you, Lord, for all the glimpses, or all the things that I catch a glimpse of, all the things that I see, and all the things that I miss. Forgive me for the things that I don't see or I don't catch. But thank you for the things that I have been able to take in. And and that's why, like, raising the kids, it's like, oh my gosh, they could be so frustrating at times, but I will literally stop myself in my tracks and say, you know what, it's not that bad. It's just this situation. Take a deep breath. I mean, we were just at CVS yesterday because my Maria wanted to make slime so badly. And I had a little craving for Rita's water ice, and I mentioned it to my son, and he was like, can we go to Rita's? And of course, Val wanted to come along, and we get to CVS, and she has this thing. She always gets something because she is her dad's, like, wrapped around his, oh my gosh. And she always comes home when she goes somewhere with him with a bag full of stuff, new Barbies, new something. I not give in to that nonsense, not one little bit, because I'm like, I can see your room, that you have plenty of things. You do not need anything else. And she was like, I want this so bad. It was just a little Minnie Mouse purse that she could color on. I'm like, you do not need this. We did not come here for this. I came for trash bags. I came for glue, and that's it. We're not getting this. And she was like, tears. I need this so badly. I need it right now. I'm like, no, you do not. And I got down on my knee, and I was like, Val, I know you want this, but you do not need this, and you are not getting it. And she, like, the way we do what we do is we're like, put it somewhere else, hide it somewhere else, and we'll save it for your birthday. So she's like, she couldn't figure out where she wanted to put it. She was like, oh, you still see it there. And they ended up putting it inside. And I'm like, gosh, I don't know. Hopefully the CVS workers at least heard what we were doing, and they'll just go back and figure it out. But she put it inside of, like, a trapper keeper to hide it away. I'm like, at least we got through that. At least, like, we left. I think did she get something? I think it was like, I feel like she did get something. Oh, she got Band-Aids. I let her get Bluey Band-Aids. Oh, $4. I was like, okay, I can handle $4 Bluey Band-Aids. We'll let that go.
And how old is she?
6.
6. Okay. Yeah. Everything's a need at 6. Must have.
Yeah. Yeah. She is bossy. She's in charge. She's very talkative, but she will play by herself for hours at the same time. She is so crafty. She's always making, like, little mini things. And, like, so anything she sees on TV that she doesn't have, she's like, oh, I'm going to make a playground today. So right now, they're out on the porch. There's this cardboard with, like, I don't know, she made, like, a swing and a sliding board just out of stuff. And I'm like, oh, I mean, hey, entertaining, right?
Nice. You said that God really helped you overcome the cycle of what your mom was doing, the helicopter mom. And I'm not talking that your mom was bad or anything. It's just we have repeated cycles. We either divert from them or we copy them, you know. And you said that God helped you not copy that behavior. What specifically about your relationship with God um, has been the best guiding light for you to be on that new path as a parent and as a person?
Well, I'm going to attribute it to my mother at the same time, because she's the one who took us to church every Sunday. And she's the one, like, she grew up a little bit differently. She didn't have, God in her life growing up, but my father did. And my great grandparents were really instilled that in all of us. Like, I have my great grandparents' Bibles. Like, I was the only thing I took from their home when they had passed on. I was like, I want their Bibles. And but my mom's the one. She took us to church every Sunday. She had us join in on things, and so it was like I could recognize the things that I saw in her that I knew I didn't want to continue on with. But it was also because of the faith that she instilled in us. And so it's like I could recognize where my mom, stemming from her own upbringing, why she was the way she was with us. But she also taught me so much strength, as did my father. Like my dad, he was like, there was one time where I was kind of going through a little depression, and he just came in, flipped on the lights, and he's like, you're not going to do that. You're going to get up, you're going to start your day, and you're going to figure this out. You're not going to do that. And my mom, like, she just, even though I could talk to my mom about anything, like anything. And it's because they just had this like openness at the same time that they were like, my mom was a helicopter mom. She didn't want to let us go. You could tell her emotional attachment was so deep. It was like her love was so strong that she just didn't want us to go anywhere. And yet she still taught us all that strength at the same time. So it's like, and I'm so thankful for that, because had it been any other way, I probably wouldn't be the way that I am. But because my parents were so strong with me, and they never let me give up, they showed me so much foundational love. They introduced the spiritual awareness, and it wasn't pressureful either, because my previous husband, he was an atheist, like totally different than from what I was. And so it's like I just knew that I wanted to always, because everybody's experience with the Lord or some spiritualness is different. It's not so necessarily the same way that I experienced it. And so I never wanted to like shove it down my kid's throat, or, wanted to be like, the Bible has all these restrictions, or, no. You are perfectly and wonderfully made just like that. And so that's what attributes to, even with recruiting, and why that's been a calling for me, and why I met Diane, and why all that stuff happened was like, let me take all this stuff so I have a direction, because I could have gone in all kinds of different places. I mean, when I was in college, I was psychology, I was sociology, I was social work, I was elementary education. I was trying to see, like, where do I want to go with all this? But recruiting lets me touch everything. And I get to really listen and understand people and environments and things. And then I attribute that to like the Lord at the same time. Like I listen, like, and there's been many times I've been on a phone conversation with somebody, and that comes up because I say something like, oh, I'm very faithful too. I'm like, okay, and it's like names of people. It's so weird, because like on LinkedIn, or, as people have come into my life when I'm recruiting, their name lights up literally in my head. Like I can't forget this person, like they have a light around them. So it's like, and that's kind of where now today, when I say I'm a light worker, I just mean that I'm always looking for the light in any darkness. Like it's just this calling that I feel. And then if I say it like that, it's not God fearing, you know? So
Well, that's,
again,
yeah, but that's, in my experience, I'm a Reformed Catholic. So I had Saturday Mass and Sunday church, right? So I got
mhm,
both sides from both parents and grandparents. Um, and I find that when you're induced into going to church on that regular of a basis, at some point, you yourself either accept it or reject it, not based on the fact that your parents took you there or was indoctrinated into you, but at some point, there's a true connection yourself to your own spirituality that takes it there. And so somewhere along
mhm,
your line, even though your mom and your dad took you to church, somewhere you embraced it and embodied it internally yourself, not just because they had put it in front of you. And that internalization then allows you to be the light worker because you are a vessel of God doing, you say light work, and as someone who deals with a lot of energy centered people, um, the aura is real. And what I love about it is that it's scientific. You can actually hook someone up to a machine and see their energy. You can see the different colors, you can see the different energy, and it radiates from those who allow it to come out. So one of the reasons that I was so attracted to you was your aura and I love that strength that you embody and that grace that you give. And, it's all intertwined. So when you say, you're looking for the light, you truly are doing God's work, looking for the light in the darkness, and it radiates and it shines through. So,
mhm,
I think that it's all connected to the things that you went through in your life to give you that wisdom that we talked about, to embody it and to see it. So, as you move through the next phase of your journey, you're fairly young, and as you enter closer and closer to empty nester, other than wanting to be a grandparent, unless you have more little ones. What do you envision for your next phase of your journey?
Oh, great question, and I'm kind of in an impasse with it right at the moment because what I want to be able to be available for people in situations where I can be of the most help. So I have this past year, I guess almost 2 years, I've been working with one organization, but I'm a client, a client of that organization, and I have met some really spectacular people that have truly acknowledged the work that I do. And it's probably, everybody always says, oh, you do such a great job, people pull me left and right. But I feel like people have been sucking it out of me over the years, and especially like COVID came and was really very clear that I was literally like underwater, and I'm seeing I'm closing my eyes and doing my job because I know how to do it so well. It's like it was almost losing its beam with me in that certain way. And when my last position I was let go from, just shockingly so, I reconnected with Diane, who I say is my mentor and the creator of me and where I went with my career. And when I reconnected with her, she was like, "You're amazing. She just immediately uplifted me and gave me a confidence boost again." And I was like, okay, I really needed to hear that because this was really defeating. And, I had entrusted so much into that organization that I was like, I can't believe this. And then what happened was I went through some career coaching training with her, and I started to kind of do some side work. And so now I have created a side company, Lot A to Z, and that is kind of came out of that last experience, but it didn't come to me until one night. I was just starting to like kind of just jot things down and write it out. And because with the company I'm with now, there's no pressure as to like, you're not allowed to have a side hustle. Well, no, everybody's like, that's awesome. You're doing that too. That's great. And I'm like, it's not a big thing, and it's not like taking off, or really, I'm kind of just still working it out. But I wanted to have a place where if I ever could do something just by myself, I'd be able to. And it's like, so I created the Lot A to Z, and that lot stands for level and talent. Kind of like, and then a parking lot is kind of my envision. Like anybody can pull in here, A to Z. Don't know, there can be all kinds of names out there. And two, being one-to-one, so just two people coming together and having a conversation. And it has brought some small things in. My most recently was a resume review with somebody who actually reached out, somebody who I was connected with on LinkedIn, said, I see you're a light worker. She's like, I have somebody that I want to introduce you to who needs some help. Would you be open to it? And I was like, sure. And then her and we met, about 4 or 5 different times and just walked through her resume. And one thing she had said was, I just couldn't have done this without you because I didn't see my resume the way that you're seeing it. Because I said, you got to pick yourself up and look down on what you're doing. Don't just go in it. Look down on it, because then you can start to see like, okay, now, and then jot things down and just write something, because, we can expand on it, but just write some things down and then we can work with that. But if you don't have anything, you don't even know where to begin. Like, that's what I'm here from, here to help you begin. And, and then with my company that I'm working with, how that came to play was from previous relationships. Somebody reached out to me that I'd worked closely with who said, hey, if you're not, if you're interested, we'd love to have you come over and work this job with us. We're just starting this new client, new launch. And then I ended up meeting with one of the team leads on a previous account that I had never spoken to live. We had only communicated through email the whole time, but I was always like hiring for him. So then when we met, like for real, I was like, oh my gosh, we know each other actually really well. And then with the client, I got partnered with one of the best people I have ever met, like just in this whole kind of setting of recruiting. Like, he's just amazing, like totally laid back, totally open, just like was so willing to just work with me. And then we just hit it off as two people. And now it's like, I can't, I'm like, anything that I do is better than what they've experienced before. So it's always like doing something that's bettering every situation, which is just makes me look good, which I'm still like, such a humbled like person. I don't need anybody to say anything. Like, it's fine. I'm just doing my job. But it's opening up different doors for me. So more of that leveling up in your career, like how do you get to that management? How do you get to that directorship? How do you get to those VP levels? And, I feel like that's what's unraveling for me. It's coming, and it's like, but I don't want to rush anything at the same time. So as much as it sounds like I have things in front of me that sound exciting, it's like when it's meant to happen, it will find me, and I will know if it's the right place for me to go, but there's still time now, like things are still developing. And I feel like that's kind of where I'm at in my career, is this development piece where it's going to launch me into that next phase of my life. But I'm also learned so much going up to this point that I'm also much more of an owner of my time. Mm-hmm. And I've always been that way. Like, because with my kids, like I said, I wanted to work from home. Well, that was when I started working at Roundstocks. That's when we met, because I was like, I need to be able to be as flexible as possible for my work and my family so that I can handle both of them at the exact same time. And that's where I took a step back in my career, but it left me that much more forward. So now it's like my calendar people are like, oh, you're so busy. I'm like, yes, I am very busy. That's why I block this time, because it's like so important to be able to own your time and say, oh, I'm actually available at this time. You might not be able to put anything on my calendar, but I am available and I'll make myself available for you at this time. So it's like that ownership of myself is different now. And I think that is what's going to really help me as I continue to move forward in my life and open up something for me too. Is like, yeah, okay, empty nester. Well, maybe we'll go on vacation.
Don't know what those are, but we'll try one. The fact that you are you're humble enough to still be open, because you've been in your industry for quite a bit, quite a long time, but you're still humble enough to be open to new learning and new things. That propels you to the greatness as well. The other thing, the fact that you want to flow with the river, not try to push the river, but you're prepared with the boat when the water comes by. You're not just sitting on shore going, "Oh, that looks nice." You're actually doing the internal and the external prep work to be ready. So when the opportunities do come by, you're willing to flow with them. So those are all things that make uh, the next level exciting, because you're open to whatever the packages that they come in, but you're ready for the experience to do them. So that's really, uh, it's a vital piece to anyone's success. If you were to give a piece of advice to anyone out there seeking to take themselves to the next level, um, other than a strong connection with God, because there's all walks of life out there, and we know not everyone uh, has that. You were married to one. Uh, um, uh, what would you say is a vital piece to taking themselves to their own next level?
Well, I would say it's important for you to find your tribe. I think my tribe came and found me, and I didn't know how badly I needed it. And I think that the embracement of the people that showed up in my life and said, and helped me feel like I was good, even though I could say it to myself and I could pull it from the Lord. It is so comforting to have people who cheer you on and support you in a challenge, in change, in new development. I had a woman who had reached out to me just so random on LinkedIn, and she was about to lift off the Catalyst group. And it was primarily women, where she wanted to be able to have true, authentic conversations, provide a safe space for women to come to and communicate and offer ideas because a lot of the women that are part of this are going through a divorce, or they're starting their own companies, or they've run their own companies, or they're ready for something more. And first of all, it was really humbling for me to have her reach out in the first place and ask me to be a part of it, and then to realize that growing up I didn't have a lot of friends, a lot of people. I was like one best friend, and I would probably navigate more of like leaning into more of the male friendships than the female friendships. And that's why I really, because I was like, I'm not into all that catty stuff. But I found that with becoming a founding member with Catalyst, that I have a tribe of women that I can reach out to for anything. And then to have my mentor, and then to have my best friend, and then to have my husband, to have the people who have shown up, like in this new client, like, you're in this circle with us, like, we've got your back, we totally support you, want to be there for you. And even you're coming in and offering me a space like this, and like remembering me all these years later and saying, like, I would like for you to be a part of this, and I'd like to talk with you and share some of your story. And I'm like, that's just so awesome. I never thought that could be like that. Like, I never knew how much I needed those people in my life.
Well, I think tribe and community is vital. And another thing that I recognize when I work with my clients is that as they grow and as they step into their new being, their tribe and their circle is bound to change, because you either outgrow those that you're with or they try to hold you where you are, and neither is really well. Some will come with you but many will not, and you but God, spirit, universe, whatever, will put new tribe in front of you that helps you at that new next level. And so yes, tribe is huge, tribe's important, and it's a vital part of our growth and our journey. Speaking of tribe, ask you one last question, and I appreciate you after all these decades still being in, my tribe. Not very often I stay connected to former bosses, uh, but what does a warrior spirit mean to Melissa?
Well, I knew you were going to ask me this question, and I actually thought about it. I was driving my daughter to work, and I was on my way back, and I'm like, "What are you going to ask me a question about a warrior spirit? What would make a?" So I think it's this never give up attitude. Like, I'm never going to let anything keep me down in a space where I don't believe 100% that I can move forward. Like, and it's like, move forward is kind of my slogan in my head all the time. I think it's knowing that you can have fear but not be fearful. It's like when I would joke all the time, like going into one of my hiring managers calls, like, I got sweaty palms but you can't see them. you know and that showing up for everything, like, no matter how uncomfortable it is. I had another boss that I loved her, and we get on a call, and we had our arms director had just been let go, and so she was coming in interim, and she's like, "Well, I'm just gonna start this off and see if anybody has any questions or if there's anything you'd like to address." And then it was like pin needle silent. Nobody said a word. I really didn't have anything to say. I was like, "Well, clearly things are changing, so we'll just see what happens." But she goes, "That's okay. I'm completely fine with uncomfortable silence." And I was like, that's actually, so I'm going to put that in my toolbox. And that's what I've done over the years. And a lot of women, have done something that I thought to be it was clear that it was a benefit. It was a helping tool. And I just would take my toolbox out and be like, I'm going to use that somewhere down the line. I'm going to use that somewhere down the line. And I think that those, like, a warrior spirit recognizes other warriors. Mm-hmm. And then learns from them to build up my armor, yes, per se. And it's crazy that you even have came out and were doing this, because especially during COVID and with my last company and whatnot, I felt like I was a warrior through that time. And I put on my armor and I'm like, I have to tackle this every day. And I worked for, a government organization, and it was like everything needed to be so perfect. And I would say I'm definitely a perfectionist. I like things to be done just so. And yet I also know that there will be challenges and changes. And I think that was the biggest thing, the change management. I think during COVID and then coming into this new organization, the kind of development that I'm going through, I'm like, I am actually immersed in change management, and I'm getting up every day, showing up in it, and I am trying to find better ways to do everything. And I think that and even if it seems a little fearing at times, it's like, no, I'm not going to give up. I'm going to keep trying. I think that is a warrior spirit.
I think you embrace it fully, and I can't say enough good things about you. If anyone ever wants to know who to go to for help in the recruitment industry, Melissa, you are my go-to gal. So appreciate that. We will post your links in the video so that people can reach out to you and get a hold of you should they, need the help or want the help. And, we'll direct them your way. I just want to thank you for, we haven't touched base on a weekly basis, but we've stayed in touch and we've kept up with each other. And, I just admire you a lot. Your strength and your glow, your light in the darkness. And I appreciate that you're in my tribe, and just thank you so much for doing this today.
Thank you, Daryl. I really appreciate you as well. And I think that it's kind of that thing where, like, a best friend kind of thing, if you meet somebody and you have a connection, you can pretty much pick up wherever you left off, no matter how much time there is in between.
Yeah, I feel that's very true for us. So tell your husband I said hello, and I look forward to meeting him in person sometime. And you guys have a blessed rest of your week.
Thank you. You as well. Take care.
Bye.